So today is Monday, September 17, I do believe, and I just did a live stream on Facebook about my business idea in New York, and I'd love your thoughts on it. So if you have any, leave them in a comment, and I hope you enjoyed the stream. How's it going, guys? I'm here on the beaches. I live right here, and downtown Toronto is back there, and my dream, which was what I'm going to talk about, is right there. And I love this spot because it's really quiet and close to the city, and I just moved here a few days ago, and yeah, I just thought that today is finally the day that I want to share what my dream is, what I want to do in New York next year. And I know I've been talking about it for a while, but never really specifically, so this is the time I'm gonna do it, alright? But before we get into it, I was gonna write an article about it, and it's actually finished. The article is done, but a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, Lamar, he's back in New York, and he does the graphical design work for the last few articles I've made, and he's just amazing at his job, but sometimes it takes a little longer than expected, or at least expected for me, because I'm not a designer. I don't know how much work that kind of stuff is, right? And he's working on an amazing graphic. I trust him a lot, and it's gonna be finished next week. So there's gonna be an article about UMS New York, which is what I want to do in New York next week, next Tuesday. And in the meantime, I want to talk about what it is, right? So you've heard me say it before, UMS New York. It stands for Urban Makerspace, and the idea behind it is, when I was 9 years old, I started woodworking. Some of you know that, others don't. And if you're 9 years old, you can imagine it's pretty tough. One, because you don't have the space for it, right? Like, you need a lot of space if you want to build furniture, or especially if you want to do some construction work or anything like that. So you need a lot of space. That's a problem. Second, you need equipment, you need machines, you need tools, which is also really expensive, and you can imagine a 9-year-old not having that, right? And third, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, because like everything I've known, or everything I know about construction or making or anything, is learned through the internet, but it took years and years and years and years, which is totally fine. But those three things are really important, not just for a 9-year-old that wants to start in woodworking, but for everyone that wants to start in making anything. And on top of that, I want to move to a city, right? I want to live in New York, and I just don't see where people would make in New York. Like, where would you create? Because the housing prices are ridiculous. Like, I think the average price for a studio in New York City, in Manhattan, is like $2,800 a month. And that's just a studio. That's a bed and a kitchen. So I don't see other people spending too much more money on finding a place to make, right? Because where would they get it from? So the idea is similar to what we did in Ghent when I started Tiny House Belgium. So for those of you who don't know, when I was 18, I started a construction company and building tiny houses on wheels. You can look that up, Tiny House Belgium it's called. It's still going, but I sold it 2 years ago to pursue this dream I'm chasing right now. And we had a workshop in the city of Ghent, or very near to it, that was 1,000 square meters, which I don't know how many square feet that is. I think it's 9,000 square feet or something. And we had that workshop, but it wasn't all ours. So what happened was, it's a big company that does glass renovation or window renovations, and they rented the whole space. But instead of using all the space, which they didn't need, they subletted half the workshop, kind of, so 500 square meters. And what was cool about that is that they were doing their thing in half of the workshop, and then we had like 250 square meters, and then there was another company that was also a woodworker that used it for storage mainly, but they came around too. And it turned into this collaborative space of people making stuff, right? Or people doing stuff. And that was just always really fun, because one, you can share equipment, because like some tools are just so specific and so expensive that you never use them all day, right? And so we could share equipment, and then after a while we started sharing resources, like our time and their time. So when they had a big project, we worked for them, and then when we had a big project, they did some stuff for us, and it was just a really fun environment. And then especially because that space we had was actually part of a bigger, how'd you call it, a bigger domain that was owned by a construction company. And it's just nice to be around other people that are creating. And this wasn't that creative of an environment, but it did make me think about what it could be. And that's kind of where UMS came from. So one, because I had all these troubles starting in woodworking, and it took me years to find a space and equipment and learn the things I needed to learn. And second, because I experienced that collaborativeness and that space where so many other people were working together. And I like both. So what UMS wants to do, or is going to do, is find a big industrial building in New York City, which there are a lot of because it's a previous harbor city. And the problem with those buildings is that most of them are empty because it's expensive to run any kind of manufacturing in an area like Brooklyn, where the rental prices are so high, right? Like, it doesn't make sense to get a factory there, but the buildings are still there. And you would think, like, why don't they make condos out of it, or lofts, or shops, or whatever? But actually, it takes a long time to rezone. So these buildings, they're meant to be industrial, so they're industrial zone. And if you want to change that, it takes years. Like, it can literally take 10 or 20 years to rezone a building into commercial or residential, and you're not even sure if you're gonna make that happen or not. So a lot of these buildings are empty, and they're in very prime locations. They're very near the water because they needed to get there with boats, 100 years ago. And what we want to do is rent out one of these buildings. I'm looking at one in Brooklyn and one in Long Island City right now, which is Queens. It's right across from Midtown Manhattan. And we want to convert them into a makerspace. So a makerspace actually is something that already exists. Like, a lot of makerspaces are already existing, but the one that you could compare it to in New York, it's called the Staten Island Makerspace, I'm pretty sure. But what happens a lot with these kind of makerspaces, and I don't want to judge them or anything, because I think what they're doing is awesome, but it feels like you have to be this super creative person to get there, right? Or to be a part of their community. And I don't think that's true, because I think a lot of people want to create stuff, and a lot of people want to make from all kinds of industries as a hobby. Like, for example, I worked with colleagues that came out of the medical world, that came out of the financial world, that came out of the legal world, and they all want to create, they all want to do something. And so I don't believe that we have to focus on people that are already creatives or makers or whatever, but more on whoever wants to experience creating or experiment with it, and give them a space and the tools and the knowledge they need. So the way we want to do that is by, there are a lot of different things, but one is private work studios. So what that means is, like, you have this big space of 1,000 square meters, right? And then we can rent out private spaces within that space that are 100 to 200 square meters, depending on what they need. And that's all yours. Like, you just get the space, you can get in there 24/7, and you buy your own tools and you can work there. And the advantage of doing that over other things is, the second part is, we also have co-working memberships. So what that means is, not everyone has the means or the funds to invest in a private space, right? Because it's still New York, like, we have to charge quite a bit of money for that to make it profitable. So the second part is have a big shared space. So it's probably half the space, it's 500, 600 square meters. And equip that space with all the tools you might need to create. So that could be 3D printers and CNC machines, but also just hand tools and basic equipment like circular saws and drills and everything like that. And yeah, so that's the second part. And then the advantage of having that private space is that you can also use these shared resources. So that's the main part of the business. It's shared co-working spaces, but also private work studios that you can rent out from month to month. And you can also, on top of that, get daily passes to, just if you want to create something, like, let's say you want to make a bookshelf, you can just get 2 day passes and work on it for a weekend, and then take your project home, and you don't have to worry about any memberships or anything like that. So that's the main part of the business. Then second part is learning, because you need to know a lot before you can start making something. Like, it's not, you can try stuff, but that will take you forever, and I can you know, I know how that feels. And so the second part is workshops. And I've actually met some people in Belgium, or researched some people in Belgium that are doing this in Belgium too. But basically you say that, like, this weekend, for example, we're organizing a workshop on making a bench, and then someone would teach a group of 10 or 15 people how to make a bench, and then they'll all make it, and then they can take it home after the weekend, right? And I think this is a great way to for people to experience making and just to try it out, right, without any commitments or anything. So that's the second part of the business. And then I have so many ideas on expanding it. It's pretty crazy, but I think that if we nail down what I just told you, so the private workspaces and the co-working memberships, and then also the workshops, that if we can do all that, that will be a great start. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then of course next week in the article that'll come out, there will be a lot more details there. So I'll definitely check that out. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas, because I'll need a lot of them. I'm here in Toronto for the next year preparing for this. So I'm planning on starting this business next year in September, so September 2019. And I know I have a shit ton of things to learn about and to practice. So here in Toronto, I'm meeting people in real estate and in marketing and in sales and in customer relations and in HR and in investment and just everything I can think about. I'm hitting them up on LinkedIn, and I'm offering them to write for them for free, to write articles for them for free in exchange for their thoughts on my business idea and how I can present it better and make it better in general. And I'd love to ask you the same, like if there's anything I can do that you know, that will help you out in exchange for like your ideas or tips on my business idea, I'd love it. So that's pretty much it, and I'd love to see all your comments and ideas. And then, as I said, next week on probably Monday or Tuesday, an article will come out on like all the details and how it's gonna work and how much it's gonna cost and everything like that. So if you want to see that, you should follow my page, and I'll let you know. And that's gonna be it, I think. Just gonna finish off with showing you beautiful Toronto skyline. Well, it's pretty small, but I like it still. And yeah, that's gonna be it. So if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll see you guys later. I've also been working on an ebook, which I'm not gonna tell you everything about, but I'm really excited. Or there are quite a few people that want to work with me on it. So that's a pre-film project, and it's been a journey because I've never done anything like that. And then tomorrow, or actually tonight, I'm calling someone from Australia that recently moved there, or I think recently, and super excited about that. Also tomorrow, I'm doing a client visit with the part-time job I'm working as with a property management company. And then after, I have 2 calls with people I met through LinkedIn, and I've been hitting up like literally 100 people on LinkedIn from every industry, like real estate, marketing, sales, business development, all that. And I've just been asking them like, hey, I'd love your thoughts on my business idea, and in exchange I want to write for you on your LinkedIn or whatever. I want to write articles for you, and that's been going pretty well, so I'm super excited about that too. But that's all tomorrow, so I'll keep you updated on how that goes. And I've really been loving how busy these days are, and it's because on Thursday I'm leaving town. I'm going to Alberta with my ex-roommates, and we rented a camper van, and we're gonna drive around for 9 days. It's gonna be pretty sick. But yeah, so like all my appointments are before that. I'm also meeting another makerspace on Wednesday night, and I want to see if there's anything I can do as a volunteer or as a part-time worker or whatever. So yeah, like stuff is happening, and I'm really excited about that. And yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. So if you liked it, like it down below, leave your thoughts on my business idea. I'd really appreciate that. And give it a share. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow or something, or later. All right, bye.